definitely not going to be Deshaun Watson. Now, there's a lot of reasons for that. First of all, you don't trade inside your own division. But second of all, their general manager came out and just pretty much put this to bed. Can you tell us exactly what he said?
So there was this presser, like an introductory presser for the Houston Texans, wherein even before the first question was even thrown, Nick Caserio already mentioned that as an organization, they would like to recommit to Deshaun Watson, and there's zero chances that they will trade him away. So that's a pretty stern statement to put publicly by the general manager who makes the decisions for the roster. So you could look at it two ways. Either they will be firm that they won't trade Deshaun. After all, he still has at least 2 years left in his contract before an opt-out option comes in, or they are bluffing their way to make the other teams like expedite the process. That if you really want Deshaun Watson, we are calling our bluff, so you must put all of your chips in.
Look, if you get rid of Deshaun Watson, 25 years old, if you can't figure out a way to make that work, I mean, this is like having one of the most beautiful girls in town as your girlfriend, and somehow you made a mistake and she wants to leave and you're too proud to fix it. Like, for goodness sakes, go fix the problem. Go figure out what the problem is in this relationship and make it work. Deshaun Watsons don't just fall off trees. I mean, that guy is a top 5 quarterback and will be a top 5 quarterback for the next 10 years probably. So I don't know what's going to happen there. I will say that you could be right. This could be Caserio coming out and trying to drive the price up on Watson. Like, you never want to say, yeah, he's up for trade. Although, look, Detroit just came out and said that Matthew Stafford was up for trade and somehow still got a quarterback, 2 first-rounders, and a third-rounder. So apparently, even if you say you don't really want the guy, that you're going to keep a high value. So and I think Watson is a better talent than Stafford is. So I don't know, man. I don't know what's going to happen. If I'm Watson, though, I don't want to be there anymore. I really don't want to be there. Everything that's been going on, all the BS that's been happening there, this coach that they hired, that guy's nobody. I don't want to be rude because my everything I've read about him, they always say he's a really nice guy, but he wasn't even an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator somewhere. He's been coaching for almost 40 years, and he's never been a coordinator. So I don't know how this guy became the head coach. But I'll say something that no one else wants to say. I'll say something that everyone else is too PC to say. I'll say this. They hired a black coach because they thought it would make their black quarterback happy. To me, that is the most ridiculous thing that I've ever seen. I believe that he wanted the Kansas City offensive coordinator. I believe that they wanted him for sure. That was the guy that they wanted. And for whatever reason, he didn't take the job. He didn't interview well, whatever was going on, Bieniemy. And I think that to appease Watson, a couple of dumb white guys in the office were like, well, we got to hire a black coach. That'll make him happy. And I don't think, I don't think Deshaun Watson gives a care the color of his coach. He just wants a good coach. He just lived through Bill O'Brien, which was, from all accounts, fairly nightmarish. So I think it's a bad hire, in my opinion. I don't think it's a good hire. I think it's a bad hire. I think it made the Watson situation worse because now he's looking at it going, now who do I have? I just suffered through 10 games with Romeo Crennel, and now I got to deal with this guy who's like Romeo Crennel light. And I don't think it's a great move. I do got to give Caserio some credit, though, for coming out and addressing it and just, getting in front of it. This is what we're doing. We're going to try to make it work. At least we know what the scenario is for them. Do you have any predictions on the Watson thing? Do you think it's going to happen? And if you think it's going to happen, what's the window you think it's going to happen in?
I believe it will happen before even the combine, I guess, would start. It's just 2 teams that are, I guess, in really the best running for Deshaun Watson. It's either the Miami Dolphins or the New York Jets. But, of course, Watson has a preference towards the New York Jets because of Robert Saleh, their new head coach. And of course, the power of having a no trade clause in your contract, that's huge because you get to dictate where you want to go. So essentially, if you don't like the team, I will veto the trade because I have a no trade clause. And again, with Caserio and of course Jack Easterby for all of the rumors and all of the noises that are coming against him, and of course Cal McNair, the owner, it shows the dysfunction that the Texans franchise is now in the midst of. That those 3 guys are not on the same page at
Yeah.
all. And then you add a new head coach. That is nice, of course, but of course, um, being nice has its limits. Sometimes you don't call Bill Parcells a nice coach, but he is a winning coach. You don't call
Yeah.
Bill Belichick nice, but he is successful. So
Yep.
sometimes nice can get you somewhere, but you have to have that edge to become more successful. And
When
just
you when
to
you
yeah, go ahead.
Good. No, I was going to say when you look at the whole, like you talk about how dysfunctional that team is. Jack Easterby. You know his history, right? He
Yeah,
was the
Chaplin.
chaplain. He was the chaplain for the team. So I mean, it's nice to be a man of God. That's great, but I'm not sure how that qualifies you to be the guy who's actually running the entire team. Apparently, he had a very good relationship with the owner, and it just kind of got moved up the chain. So I think from a lot of football people, there's not a lot of respect for Jack Easterby from a football standpoint because that's not his background. He's a man of God, and that's fine. But you don't hire somebody who's not qualified to run your multi-billion-dollar franchise because you have the same, strictly based off of the fact that you have the same religious beliefs. To me, I find that to be incredibly bizarre. His decisions have been incredibly strange, and I think they'll continue to be that way. And unfortunately, it puts him in a really tough situation. Like, what do you do? How do you possibly get rid of a Jack Easterby if he's really the problem? The media seems to lean towards the fact that he's the problem. How do you, from a PR standpoint, how do you get rid of a guy like that who is probably, by all accounts, a really good guy, but just not qualified to be in this position? That could end up being like a kind of a nightmare. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, indeed. And the worst part is he has the ear of the owner itself.
Mm.
So he's like the right hand guy of
Yeah.
Cal McNair right now. So whatever he says, it's a sweet music to Cal McNair, and that's what happens. And I'm just pulling out some tweet here from John McClain of the Houston Chronicle. So this could start a conversation about
John
a
McClain.
possible Deshaun Watson package. So now we can have a gauge that Stafford was worth 2 first-round draft picks. And John McClain is speculating that any team that would want Deshaun Watson should give up 2 first-round draft choices, 2 second-round draft choices, and 2 young defensive starters at the very least. So what do you think of that package?
2 firsts, 2
2
seconds.
seconds, and then 2 young defensive starters.
Look, that's like a fantasy package. Like so now you're looking for the perfect team that's got 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and two defensive starters, 2 young defensive starters. I'm sorry. So I don't know where that idea comes from. To me, that's a strange thing to ask for. 2 firsts, 2 seconds, that works. 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and saying I think we need 2 players. Maybe that works too. What if it's the Dolphins and the Dolphins are willing to give you 2 firsts, 2 seconds, because their first is worth more than, say, Pittsburgh's first, because it's higher in the draft. Let's say the Dolphins are willing to give you 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and give you Tua. Now, even if you don't love Tua, you can do the same thing I think Detroit might do. I think Detroit might try to flip Goff. And by that, I mean, they already got him into the fold. They already brought him in. Hey, can I get a second rounder for Goff? Indianapolis needs a quarterback badly. Can I get a second rounder for Goff? So now if I'm the Texans, I'm taking the offer of 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and a quarterback. And I'll take that quarterback and I'll flip him for either more draft capital or I'll flip him for the defensive player that I want. But a defensive player, unless it's a cornerback or an edge defender, and even then it's got to be somebody special. It's got to be a TJ Watt or something like that. If you bring those guys in, they don't have the value of a quarterback. A young quarterback like Tua. I don't think last year showed us that Tua can't play this game. I think it showed us that he's further behind in his development than Joe Burrow was and that the kid in San Diego was. I don't think he's a bust yet. I don't think you looked at him and say, the kid can't play. I think you looked at him and said, the kid hasn't figured out how to throw the ball down the field yet. That's a learned behavior. It takes a minute to do that. So I don't necessarily love that. I'd have to really look at the Texas lineup, to be honest, and really tear it apart and see if they really need they need 2 defensive stars. Why would he say 2 defensive stars? That's so specific,
Well, stats has it that the Texans are one of the worst teams when it comes to pass defense. Like they are like comparable with the Seattle
Yeah.
Seahawks when it comes to the secondary.
Yeah.
So I guess that's where John McClain is inkling to. So
Well, I get that, but hang on a second. Their defense is terrible, but as soon as they lose Deshaun Watson, their offense is terrible too.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're like, you're just trading one for another. So now if you trade away Watson and you pick up two star defensive players and you draft a couple defensive players in the defense, you still don't have a quarterback. You got to have a quarterback. You got to put somebody there who can help you move the ball. Deshaun Watson was the entire team last year.
Yeah.
Like he did everything for them.
Just imagine he was the leading pass thrower with 4,823 yards. That's almost 5,000 yards with a dysfunctional offense that did not have a home run catcher because DeAndre Hopkins was already in Arizona. So imagine what Deshaun Watson can do with the proper receiving core. And
100%.
put him in a team with those assets, with those weapons. He can throw like crazy for maybe 5,000 or like 5,500.
They have no running game. They have really no stud wide receiver. I think Will Fuller would be the only guy that I would think would be quote unquote a stud wide receiver. He's a free agent. He's going to be on the move. I don't think the Texans have the space to even sign him, so they're going to lose him. They have no running game. They have no tight end. Their offensive line is it's okay. It's better than it's been in the past. And now you're going to lose Watson. You literally have that's a junk offense. So you junk offense, junk defense. I'm taking the Detroit Lions approach at things, and I'm saying, give me enough picks that I could rebuild and I could get some good players. Now, if I end up with the Dolphins pick or the Jets pick, I got a quarterback. I can get the kid from Ohio State. I can get the kid from BYU. I've got places I can move up and down. I can slide up and down the draft. I just can't see them saying any team as long as they get two stud defensive players back. You got to replace a quarterback with a quarterback. I don't think there's any two ways about it. Now listen.